Konnichiwa.
And hey, y'all.
I'm Leslie.
I'm Laurie.
And welcome to
SumoKaboom,
where we talk about all things sumo.
That's right. This week we're talking about pre-bout rituals.
I like pre-bout rituals.
Me too.
I think it's kind of the thing that brought me into the sport, really, is that I was fascinated by it.
I think you're not alone.
There's a lot of things that brought me into the sport, but this is one of my favorite things that brought me into the sport.
Yeah, you're not alone. I've heard that comment over and over and over again because we reached out this week to find out what y'all's favorite pre-bout rituals
Yeah, people had
were.
really strong opinions, and they really wanted to let us know, which I love.
Yeah.
Let's talk about history a little bit this week of pre-bout rituals.
Yeah, set the scene for us.
Okay. Well, there are many aspects to the pre-bout ritual. Some are spiritual, set in stone, and haven't changed for many, many years. And then there are the personal pre-bout rituals of each wrestler that we all know and love. It's the inside look at the individuality of each wrestler as they let us peek into their psyche for a few minutes before each bout starts. Now, wrestlers are traditionally stoic. You know, they're trained from start to finish to be respectful and oftentimes sort of emotionless on the outside, even though we know deep down they are a bundle of nerves and are very, very much like everyone else in life's high stress moments. So for any new listeners we have out there, by the way, thank you for listening, we're going to be briefly describing what is going on prior to the actual fight. You know, the fights only last a few seconds.
Perfect.
But often it's the pre-bout ritual is where you get your money's worth, I think. So we're going to tell you a little bit about that. This pre-bout ritual is called the Shikiri. It's the whole process of preparing to fight spiritually through purifications and cleansing. You see, the wrestlers purify the dojo with salt. They stomp out evil spirits with their shikos and also prove to their opponent that they come to fight honorably without weapons. But first, let's go back and let me just tell you what steps the wrestlers take from stepping up on the dojo to what you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Each wrestler enters the ring. One from the east and one wrestler from the west. They step up onto the dojo and they bow to each other first. Then they immediately walk up to the ring's edge in their respective corners, east and west, flanking the gyoji on kind of both sides. And they clap their arms straight out in front of them. And they do 2 shikos, which are leg stomps if you're new to sumo, first with the right leg and then the left leg. I didn't know that. I didn't know it was specifically right leg and then specifically left leg.
Is there a reason?
No, don't ask me that. I didn't get that deep.
Well, you'd think if it's specific and every single wrestler goes right and then left, there's got to be a reason.
Well, there's got to be, but I didn't get that far.
Okay.
But anyway, the shiko is to stomp out evil spirits and also to start getting the wrestler's body flexible and warmed up. So it's dual purpose. I was about to say focus. I was like, that's not really right. Anyway, then they step out of the ring, and that's when they receive their power water. It's not Powerade.
This is pre-COVID.
Well, yeah, but this sacred sip of water, the power water called Chikaramizu, comes to each wrestler in a long wooden ladle. And it signifies the cleansing of the body. And they swish it around in their mouth and spit it out. They never swallow.
Never.
Then they get this power paper is what it's called Chikaragami. And they put that in front of their mouth as they spit out this swished around power water in their mouth out into a bucket. So that I think nobody else has to see the grossness of them spitting out. See, the Japanese are so polite.
Well, I appreciate that paper being right there.
I do too.
Yeah.
But
it's much better than watching.
But let's admit, if sumo was an American, we watch guys playing baseball that all they do is spit out tobacco all over the place.
And it's disgusting.
It's gross.
It's one of the reasons I don't watch baseball.
I know.
I'm what is with all these spitting boys?
I know. So thank God for the Japanese who were we do this ritual, but we're going to save you all from having to look at our backwash.
I mean, what if something comes out with the power water? I don't want to see that. Big, I don't know, pieces of lettuce stuck in their teeth or something. I don't want to see that.
That's true. I never thought about just rogue lettuce pieces coming out of their mouth. Anyway, I digress. Okay, so the winning wrestler from the previous match is allowed to give out the power water and power paper to the following fighter. Now, the loser from the previous match does not get the opportunity to dole out that power water and power paper to the wrestler that follows him. I don't know. I kind of think maybe it's just so that they can get backstage to pout or to think over their match, or perhaps just not taint the power water and power paper with their loseriness for the next guy, but it's considered unlucky. So I guess the next wrestler doesn't have to deal with that guy's unluckiness.
You want to come in contact with people who are pumped up, somebody who just won and who is like, yeah.
That's right. I mean, could you imagine somebody over there like kind of brooding and just like, just like angry about like, oh, I can't believe, and then he's got to like,
here's your power.
Here's a ladle and you might slosh water everywhere.
Yeah, it would not be fun.
No. Okay, so now that they had stepped out of the ring, they grab some salt, and it depends on what wrestler it is. It's kind of dealer's choice how much they grab.
Mm-hmm.
But they grab and they toss salt as they re-enter the dojo. Now, this ritual is called Shikiyomaki, the salt-throwing ritual. So Shinto beliefs say that salt drives out evil spirits and purifies the soul. So that's why the wrestlers throw salt many times throughout the pre-match ritual. Some people grab a little bit of salt, and as they get closer and closer to the end of their 4 minutes, they're really tossing salt.
Yeah.
But then there's some people like Hakuho who just kind of like a little fits.
Yeah, a little flick.
Yeah, there's not much each time.
Yeah.
But then some people are quite dramatic with their salt throw.
Yeah, like Terezyoshi.
Yes. And like I said, it's dealer's choice.
Yeah.
No one has told them, hey, back off the salt, okay?
Yeah. And you're right in that a lot of these guys, like, their ritual grows through the 4 minutes.
Yeah.
They're pretty subtle about things.
Right.
And then as they get closer and closer to the match, they just get really demonstrative.
Yeah.
And they're like, here's 2 pounds of salt.
That's right. Okay, but now they step to their side of the ring again, and they squat at the east and the west, and they perform the chirichozu.
Chirichozu?
It sounds like chimichurri, which is a great sauce.
I thought chitty bang bang.
Oh, I was thinking chimichurri.
Okay,
so each wrestler, by performing the chirichozu, brings their 2 hands together and rolls them around as if they have fake water they are washing in their hands. Now, some wrestlers kind of like really mime this, and other wrestlers are like, I'm just going to kind of clap and act like there's water there. But it's really interesting that I don't think I had noticed. I had, but it's not consistent. So anyway, they do this big clap, and then they raise both their arms out to the side and upwards to prove to the other guy across the ring that they have no weapons. And then they flick their palms up at the top. And they then proceed to the Sankyo, which is a position in the center of the ring, which is essentially a squat just behind the 2 white lines. Those are the starting lines called the Shikiri-sen. And the Sankyo is a non-hostile squatting position. And from here, this is kind of where the really exciting stuff happens. Now, this is called the, hopefully I can pronounce this right, niramai, which is mind games, essentially. It's the part of the pre-bout ritual where they kind of participate in mind games. Like,
they actually call it this? It's titled
it's
Mind Games?
Well, it's not called mind games, but it's what it is. It's the psychological kind
psyching
of
your opponent out.
Yeah, the mental aspect of this whole pre-bout ritual. You stare deeply at the other wrestler, and it's really fascinating. Unless you're a wrestler, you can't really look into somebody else's soul, so only these guys know. But you can tell from the side, there's a lot of information being exchanged. Sometimes they have a poker face. I think Takakesho typically has a poker face. The only thing that gives him away is like his excessive sweating pre-match. You can kind of, or his breathing. You can tell that his heart rate is elevated, but he seems pretty stoic. You know, there's a couple of things that you see from different wrestlers, but some wrestlers throughout time have really, really used this to intimidate. Akibono was one of them, so much that I can't remember who he was fighting with. It was another Yokozuna. They basically laughed at him because his stare down was so Dynasty 1982. It was so dramatic, like the looks he would give to whoever he was wrestling with.
Yeah.
So it's just depended over time what the wrestler wants to do or how dramatic they make these moments. Also, at the same time, though, they are trying to center themselves and calm themselves, yet align themselves with this other wrestler. And it's really kind of a beautiful thing to watch. Now, in between each one of these, they will bow down and then they will say, not yet, kind of. And then they will go back to their corners, wipe off with the towel and the face and the armpits, hopefully not armpits and then face, but lots of times it is armpits, face. I firmly
Yep.
believe it should be face, armpits, but no one's asking me.
They're not talking about facial care.
No. I mean, does it really matter, though, if you're about to grab the other guy's armpits anyway?
Probably not.
They probably are just like armpits are armpits.
Yep.
The toweling off and all that is still to keep themselves pure and clean. And this is all, if you look at it under the umbrella of Shinto religion and in the rituals that you would partake in upon entering a Shinto shrine, all followed kind of to the T. Now, in these back and forths to the corner and the center and corner and center, the momentum starts to build. And sometimes they smack their mawashi, sometimes they flare, and I don't know, they go back in and back out. With each one, there's pressure, there's excitement, there's alignment, there's breathing, until they're like, yeah, let's fight. And I just don't know what that moment is because I still can't tell. I don't know, but it's like a mini show. Now, this ritual used to be over 10 minutes long. And in 1928, they were like, okay, all right, this is exciting, but 10 minutes per each one. We're going to be here all day. So they made it, they kind of chipped off the time. And now we've been kind of stuck with 4 minutes is the amount of time that they get.
That's interesting. I wonder if a lot of them feel rushed.
I don't know.
I don't know what the answer. I don't know that we could ever find out the answer to that question, but I wonder if they wish they had more time.
I really don't know. I imagine it's probably different because everyone in this world is different. Like you and I are very different people as far as like how fast or how slow we get going in the morning or whatever. I imagine it's kind of the same with them. Some people, it's like molasses. And then some people are like the second they step up there, they're like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. So imagine it's just kind of whatever two people come together, that's what you get. That's about kind of all I have to say about the process getting up to that moment of explosion or tachiai.
Okay. I did a little poll online this week about pre-bout rituals. I just wanted to know what our listeners, who did their favorite pre-bout ritual. Because, I mean, I have my favorites, you have your favorites.
Yeah, you know mine.
Yeah. And we look forward to them every day.
Well, that's
really.
why Takayasu's been killing me because he stopped doing it.
Well, okay. Yeah. So, after reading everybody's favorites, I just thought we should talk about the ones that you miss, that people miss. And then I just want to finish up with some that only a few people mentioned. So maybe educate some people about some pre-bout rituals to look up online, because the best thing about the internet is you can find these pre-bout rituals of anybody.
They bring a smile to my face, especially, of course, the ones that are more ridiculous.
Well, yes.
More, just big.
Well, and what's so lovely about many of them is they've been made into GIFs now. So you can watch them over and over and over and over again. It's really fabulous. But okay, I just wanted to mention your favorite. Let's start with him.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. You want to say who he is?
Well, Takayasu.
Yeah. And you're just one of a huge contingency out there who has been missing the Takayasu. What do you call his move?
It's like a shrug. It's like a ultimate muscle flex in his traps.
Yeah.
And he brings his arms down like he's flexing his whole back muscle for you.
Yeah. It's some people call it the bear shrug, the bear hug.
He doesn't do it because people can hear him in this moment because there's fewer, because didn't he do it like a grunt?
He used to do it with a big grunt.
I know.
Yeah, he used to. Well, and I think there is a big part for some of these men, not for all of them, but for some of these men, a big part of their pre-bout ritual is audience participation.
Right.
And getting the audience on their side.
It's their personality. It's their personal moment to shine.
Well, yes.
And we love them in that moment.
It's about building energy. It's about building support from the room and about getting your people on your side and getting them cheering for you. So when he used to grunt and he did that flex of his shoulders, the audience would just grunt with them. They were like, and then he would always end with like an arm wiggle to kind of wiggle it out, right? All done while facing the audience in a corner with this strange, like, dreamy look in his eyes that always kind of confused me. Like, what is he looking at? It's
that I kept thinking, ooh, I'd want that seat. Like that seat out there to make eye contact with him in that moment, to be like, I've got you. And then he's like, roar. And then he goes in and he wins the bout. And then he salutes to me as he leaves the dojo.
Yeah.
Because I was responsible for his win.
Of course you were. We will never know where these wonderful moves come from and if they develop them on their own or purposefully or not, but you are one of many people who are missing that move from Takayasu right now. Some people say he hasn't done it since he lost his Ozeki status. I have no idea if that's true or
he
not.
Got married.
Well, it disappeared before he got married.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he's just a more chillin' guy now and he's like, I don't need so much of the grunting anymore. Oh, maybe aged out of it.
I disagree.
I don't know. But Takayasu was very much in the top 3. Wrestlers for, like favorite pre-bout rituals. Takayasu is just top 3. Definitely. I give him points for subtlety. It's very subtle.
It's very Brando.
It is. It's very, it's not as subtle as, say, Takakesho's little bizarre.
Oh, yeah. He does this really half-assed arm stretch.
It's
the weakest muscle flex.
It's like a shoulder roll and a really small flex with a teeny tiny little muscle pump at the end. It's not that kind of subtlety.
No, he needs to add some pizzazz.
I think Takakesho wins for all the introverts out there. It's not big. It's just kind of like,
look at my tiny guns.
Look at my teeny tiny guns and pump. They're there and pump. But there are some people out there that love Takakesho's move, too. Oh, no, I have to mention, this is another one that showed up on the top 3 for many of our listeners. Kotoshogi-ku's move.
Oh, yeah, with his backbend. Now that's a real Matrix move.
Yes, this wrestler recently retired. So if you're brand new to wrestling, you're not going to see him wrestle anymore. He was an older wrestler, but this move, he was usually standing in the corner. His feet were planted really wide, and he would roll his shoulders way back, look up at the sky, and bend as far backward as he could. And the crowd would just roar with him every single time he did it.
He was so flexible.
It's really beautiful to watch. He also did some really great forward stretches in the middle of the dojo.
In a yoga class.
He would be. But these sort of forward stretches were not as appreciated as the back bend.
Well, if you think about it, people are like, I'm getting a full-on crack view right now.
Well, I know. But, the back bend, nobody else does a back bend. So he gets points for originality in his pre-bout ritual.
Agreed.
And a lot of people missing it. Maybe it has to do with I gotta stretch, I gotta strengthen my back, I gotta stretch out the front side before I ram it into somebody else.
Maybe.
I don't really know why. But I loved it too. Terezyoshi, you mentioned him before. He is the smallest man out there who picked the biggest trademark move to pick up as much salt as he could, throw it as high as he can into the air. And again, it's one of the moves that the crowd just loves.
Well, yeah.
Maybe.
Little man syndrome where you just grab
the biggest trademark. Yes.
Throw that salt.
Interestingly, I didn't know there was another guy that did that before him. Called Mitsuizumi. He also threw as much salt as he could into the room. He was a little before my time, but I think it's interesting that Terezyoshi might have just said, oh, I like that move. I'll take it.
That's right.
Yeah, but Terezyoshi also has some really lovely one-legged balance moves and crab-type walks as he goes from the center of the ring to the side. They're really dancey.
Touchy does that weird shuffle, too.
Yes, I'm going to get to him.
Yeah.
But what I like about Terezyoshi's is that it's identifiable and it's memorable. We cannot, though, pass up.
No.
Another one of our top 3s.
The greatest of all time?
Yeah. The master of the prep, Hokuto Fuji.
Oh, I was going to say somebody else.
No, okay, we'll come to him. Hokuto
currently
Fuji
is reigning champion.
Yes, and I'm not alone in my love of this routine. Let me see if I can describe it. If you're new to sumo, Hokuto Fuji's pre-bout ritual. It begins by pulling the mawashi out of the butt crack.
Yeah, a wedgie. It usually begins with a wedgie.
Yes, and then there's big slaps to his lower thighs, his lower legs, his chest, then his face, then his arms, and then he stomps the ground
a lot. It's like an angry bull.
And then he grabs some salt and he either holds it to his chest or to his forehead, and then he closes his eyes dramatically.
It's very dramatic.
And he brings his fist up and sort of shakes it and takes a moment there to center himself. I mean, his gets points for length.
Right.
Just length. And drama.
And full on drama. I mean,
Yeah.
he could part the seas with that, like, grasping of salt and prayer to himself. Like,
It's very Moses-like.
So help me God.
Yeah.
I will win this match. And then the seas part. And
It's
attempt
really
to put you with
wonderful.
his salt.
Yep. So, one of our listeners said, this ritual is as close as Sumo ever gets to a Meatloaf song. And I just think that's a great joke. It's true.
It's true. It's long, but it's very exciting. I mean, I love some.
Yeah.
And
And very good.
I mean, we all appreciate it.
We can't skip over Abi here and his super high, beautiful shikos.
Oh, gorgeous.
He does those beautiful. I mean, he does those better than anybody else.
He's got lovely gams.
Yeah, and he gets my points for beauty.
He's just a beautiful guy.
Yeah.
I have missed him. He's on his way back up.
Yep.
And we will hopefully get to see him soon. But I miss the bad boy himself. I love me some Abi.
So we will get to see those shikos in the future and get to enjoy his pre-bout rituals again. And I just have to mention Touchy, though, because he's a crowd favorite. He's never been a crowd favorite of mine for his pre-bout rituals, but for many people, he is. And they mentioned his towel chin taps. People love that. He like grabs the towel and hits himself on the chin with it.
Do they do the chin bump? Because Shodai does that. He does the 1-2 on his chin.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's the same. They got to loosen up that jaw.
Yeah, you got to loosen up the jaw. He does a tuck of the mawashi. He does a flex. And he's got a really strange shuffle in and out of the center of the ring.
Lobster-esque.
Well, one listener called it the sex gremlin shuffle. I have no idea where that comes from.
Yeah, but I see it. I don't even know what a sex gremlin shuffle is, but if I was to put a visual with it, I would agree. It is Tochinoshin's sort of hunkered shuffle back over.
Yeah.
Ikioi does it too when he's like, this is the last time, and he turns like with lobster claws and he kind of like shuffles out of the ring and then he shuffles back like a really angry lobster. I love it.
So Tochinoshin, he gets my points for just oddity. We do have to talk about some wrestlers, though, that are no longer wrestling that really deserve prizes for their pre-bout rituals. One of them was probably in the top 3 of all time from our listeners.
I would agree.
And this is Asashoryu's belly thwack.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's great.
There's a great gif of it out there. If you don't know who I'm talking about, just look up Asashoryu. It's going to come up. It's the most dramatic, big, simple belly thwack you've ever seen. It's like statement jewelry on a sumo wrestler.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Every time I see it, I think this is the most dramatic rolling of the dice in like Vegas. He's like, I got a handful of dice.
And he holds it up over his head.
And he smacks it. Yeah. And it's like, it's just so good.
Or matadors.
It deserves an ole. If he put an ole at the top of that, then it would have won for all-time best. But you know who all-time best
Well,
is.
yeah, but we're not getting there yet.
I know.
Because there's one in front of him I have to mention. Haruma Fuji came up a lot. And I had to go back and watch his pre-bout ritual again. But now that I've watched it again, I completely agree. Completely. It is his Dojo Kiss that he used to do. And he used to get in the center of the ring in his squat, and he would put one fist on the ground and then the other one, and then in a squat he would lower himself forward with hands and feet on the clay and slowly come forward, bending his elbows to put his head to the ground.
That's like
and come
frog
back
pose.
Up. It's incredibly hard. I don't know if you've ever tried to do that before.
Yeah, I'm not very good at frog pose. I fall over into my forehead, and it's like flat frog pose.
It takes so much strength and so much flexibility to do what he makes look really easy.
Yeah.
And now that I've watched it again and again, I'm like, that is the most gorgeous demonstration of beauty and power that I think I've ever seen.
Well,
so
I don't know about that, but I agree with you. It's lovely. I'm like, I don't know best of all time.
It's like a Baryshnikov of sumo move. Absolutely. I'm going to stand on that opinion. It is gorgeous.
Okay.
So look it up. Look up Haruma Fuji's Dojo Kiss if you want to see something really beautiful.
Okay.
Best of all time. All-time.
This guy,
So,
by the way, he's only 44.
what, now he is?
Yeah.
Or he was?
No, now. You think he's like 78 years old,
Well,
this guy, but he's like younger than me.
So,
I have so many questions about this guy.
So we're talking about, this guy has a nickname. I never realized, I always thought when people mentioned Robocop, they were not talking about this guy. I thought they were talking about someone else. But whenever you hear anyone in the sumo world talk about Robocop, they are talking about Takakesho, who was an incredibly popular sumo wrestler in his time.
Because of his pre-bout ritual.
Definitely. He brought so many people to the sport because of his ritual that he did before sumo wrestling. Now, this guy retired in 2013. He was given his nickname by Akebono because Akebono was like, this is the strangest thing I have ever seen. He's making these weirdest robotic type movements. Let me see.
It's so good.
Let me see if I can explain it, okay? If you don't know who this guy is, it's definitely worth a look-see on YouTube. He was the master of self-flagellation. He did these very robotic hits to his own body. He squinted his eyes a lot because he couldn't see well. He had terrible eyesight.
He was like nearsighted or farsighted. I can't remember, but his eyes were always like a little crazed.
Yeah, so he always had a strange look on his face just because he was trying to see around him, to see where everyone else was. He beat himself. He really beat himself up. He beat his arms, he beat his chest, and then he would flex really hard 3 times, and the audience would just cheer.
Yeah, but they weren't like normal
flexes.
They were like really quick, jerky flexes.
He would like jerk both fists like down to his knees. Kind of like that.
Like just
yeah, like, you would squeeze in really tight.
Oh,
like
it's
that.
so delightfully insane. Like if Christopher Walken was a sumo wrestler, it would be that level of like kind of weirdness and spaciness and just oddity all in a sumo wrestler.
It's intense. It's
joyful though.
In my world, it gets points for intensity, joy, flair, athleticism, audience participation. I mean, it has it all.
Yeah, when he would ball up his hands, he would look at them like, "Deliver me this win, hands. You can do it, hands." Like his hands were separate from his body.
Yeah.
And then he would sneeze with each hand grasp. He would sneeze, like a fake sneeze with each hand pump.
Oh, I can see the way it would look like that. Yeah.
Oh, it was truly inspired.
It is really strange and beautiful and weird, and definitely look it up because these are the things that bring people to sumo. Just watching someone go through all of this to get the audience on his side, to center himself, to feel physically, energetically, mentally, spiritually ready to fight someone on the dojo ring. I think it's beautiful.
Yes. And I mean, there was an article I read too. I think it was a John Gunning article that was just like, don't discount this guy because he was a very successful wrestler. Yeah. It wasn't like he was just all show. He had a couple of gold stars. He definitely beat Yokozuna. He was definitely in Sanyaku at one point. Like he was a very, very skilled wrestler. And he probably sensed that the audience was like, what are we watching? And he fed off of that. And then he didn't give a care in the world that he might be considered an oddball or goofy. You know, when we talk about him, it's not like we're making fun of him. It's because we truly like find joy in this person's pre-bout ritual, which is so unique and so unusual.
Oh, it's the best. It's the best of them.
Especially when you see them all so stoic all the time.
Well, what I really like,
see that side of them.
What I really like about Takakesho is his ritual. It's very childlike. If you watch it, it's very innocent, and it's, I hate to use that word, but there is no sense of reserve.
No.
At all. It is, this is what I need. This is what I will build, and this will help me, and I shall do it. And I do not care what I look like. And my God, how beautiful is that? And I know many other people mentioned in the poll that I did in social media.
By the way, Kota Yuki has rerun arms from, what was that? What's Happening?
Oh.
He does this arm thing.
Well, it's not even the arm. Okay, so Kota Yuki had, I didn't realize that he was famous for his hoot. Did you realize that?
Yeah, I heard somebody say he doesn't do it.
He doesn't do it anymore. So I had actually never seen the hoot. But this person sent me a video with like all these clips of him doing the hoot. And it's kind of like, hoo, hoo. And I guess it was very annoying to other people. So
no.
Hakuho told him to stop. And then, the JSA people, I guess, came in and said, "Thou shalt not hoot."
That is too bad.
I know. I don't like that either. Which is
you'll let other guys do their deals and you won't let him hoot?
I know. Hakuho has this things that he does too, but nobody gets to tell him.
Maybe he just had a personal bone, with Kota Yuki. Let him do it.
Kota Yuki has had several things. So I guess, they do have to develop them, and the JSA, I guess, occasionally has to step in and say you're taking it too far. What do you bet they were telling that to Takumi Sakari? They were probably telling him to, calm that down.
I don't think he was capable of
I don't think he was capable of it either.
I wonder if that's what they did with Rudin, though.
I don't know.
I miss Rudin's, his butt wiggle.
I'm pro butt wiggle. I'm pro hoot. I am pro whatever these boys want to do to get themselves up and ready for sumo.
Yes.
I don't think they should be censored.
Absolutely. What is
Let
this,
them
cancel culture?
I know. Yeah. Some of you love Akiseyama's really low super squats. I love those too. There's so many things we all love. And I'm sure there's more out there that I don't know about yet. So if you're listening and you're like, oh, I cannot believe they did not mention X,
especially
Y, or Z.
old ones. If there's old video we could see.
Tell us about it. Send us a copy of the video. We want to know who you love and why you love it.
Yeah, and more than anything, thanks so much to our listeners for reaching out and telling us, because this was a really fun episode to research.
Yeah.
Just mainly because it sent us down beautiful rabbit holes of the internet. I just was smiling most of the time when I was watching these.
Yeah. And honestly, you taught me. I didn't know anything about Mito Izumi. I didn't know a thing about him. I didn't know, some of you guys gave me different names for certain wrestlers and I had to look them up. It was really good research for me to do to learn even more. So thank you.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think that's our style of sumo here at SumoKaboom. Please tune in again for more info on the sport we love.
That's right. Until next time, I'm Leslie.
And I'm Laurie.
Sayonara.
See y'all later.
Bye.